My name is Peter, recovered alcoholic. Grateful to be alive and sober. And get on camera here. Good?
Yep.
Okay.
Beautiful.
What was that? I was grateful to be somewhere. Grateful to be alive and sober. And at a place called Alcoholics Anonymous. And thank the group for having me. Cecil B. DeMille here. You got it now? Good. Thank you very much.
You're gorgeous.
Well, thank Sheldon for doing this every week. By the way, he does a heck of a job. June 23rd, 1988 is when the loving God separated me from alcohol. Very grateful to this gift of sobriety, and welcome to the guy in the back with one day. Welcome home. I hope you find the same utopia many of us have found here. The longest journey starts with the first step, and not that first step, but the first step in here. So welcome. I'm supposed to talk about step 5 tonight, and I'll see where God takes us. I will tell you, I do have a home group. It's called No Problems, Just Solutions in Boca Raton on Wednesday nights at 7:30 at St. Paul's Lutheran Church. I do have a sponsor. His name is Bob Azanz out of St. Paul, Minnesota, and I'm sponsoring 11 men currently, and that keeps me busy. Not all those guys are high maintenance. That question was asked to me a few times. Some of them are low maintenance. They've been sober a very long time, but they still call me because they still know they need a sponsor. My sponsor's honing in on 60 years sobriety. I have 36. He has a sponsor, and I have a sponsor named Bob Azan. It's that important. I'm very grateful that I haven't gotten to a place, I hope I never get there, to kick back and say, I really don't need a sponsor. I got it now. I know what I need to do. This is fairly simple. And my mind has changed in a lot of ways. I'm awakened. In fact, I'm God once in a while. And I know what I need to do. I know I'm never going to use again. I don't want to go in those kind of deep waters. I never want to get so well that I think I've become immune from the tactics of my illness. So I do have a sponsor. And I don't like getting called out, but at the same time, if my sponsor does call me out, I know he really cares about me, and he really cares about his sobriety as well, and that's someone I'm accountable to. And I do with my men lovingly. I used to have a heavy hand in sponsorship. I went through that phase. But I don't do that anymore. I lovingly challenge them and I sponsor, because it's a thing where I realize I need them just as much as they think they need me. It's not like a pecking order in a where we've arrived and the newcomers can make coffee, and I have 10 years and I don't do that anymore. That's a step towards a place called drunk. So I'm very grateful God has kept me sober. There's something in Scripture. Blessed are the poor in spirit is one of the Beatitudes, and it doesn't mean poor, broke. It just means a place of a humble heart, and there's nothing before God. And because I can think I'm apart from God, and I will suffer a spiritual starvation. So it's really okay to mop a floor and put a chair away and be a greeter at the door while we're sober 30 and 40 years, and taking a newcomer to a diner who doesn't have any money and spending some of my money on a newcomer rather than a new pair of Nikes. It really goes a long way. In June of '88, I've shared this a million times. I had no clue about Alcoholics Anonymous. After 7 treatment centers, I don't know anything. I don't even know who Bill and Bob are. I don't know anything about steps and traditions. I thought the big book was kind of like a token of appreciation they would give you when you got in treatment, like a pamphlet. And that collected dust quickly until 1988, when I hit this bottom that God presented to me, and God has created lots of cultures for me over the years, an environment where He can get my attention. And what He did in 1988 was put me in the back of this abandoned building in Lower Manhattan and got my attention. He removed everything I thought I can lock into. There were no rungs in the ladder that I can climb up and get buoyant again. There was nothing left. There was family that was gone. There was no employment. There was no apartment. There was no money. I was in the street for a while. And sometimes I think about how long I lasted out there. My skin crawls, quite frankly. the life I was in and the tunnel vision I had and the need to survive out there, petrified all the time, walking with impending doom, a million secrets. I was tighter than a Major League Baseball, trying to pretend I was tough when I was petrified. And I knew at one point, 1988, right before God got me sober, I was due to get arrested and my dad's money and connections weren't going to save me. I was going to do some prison time. I wasn't a violent drunk, but you get arrested enough, you go away. I was going to get hurt on the street eventually because a lot of people were getting hurt. There weren't ODs like we have now. There was no fentanyl, but people were getting stabbed and shot fairly regularly down there. It was ugly. And I knew my number was going to come up. And I was so desperate and so depressed and such in dire straits, and my will to live was taken away pretty much. I often thought about trying to kill myself again because I tried that years earlier. And I knew one of those things were going to happen to me. That's not a good place to be. So when I got here in 1988, and some old timer, they had 10 years. They were old timer to me. Now, how do you do 10 years? That includes weekends. I don't even know how you do this. 10 years, if you haven't dropped a little something in your system just to cope with the world out there. And they would give me a simple suggestion. Just go home and pray tonight. I'm going to do it because I wasn't in a place of bargaining. And they would say, when you wake up, pray, ask God to keep you clean. So, okay, I'm going to do it. And I would just follow directions. And I wasn't looking to be any kind of big deal. Look at me, I'm following directions. I was so desperate that if this was going to keep me out of hell and keep me sober another day and keep this emotional pain away from me, I'm doing it. I'm signing up. I had no attachments to where it was going to take me or what it was going to turn into. There was nothing like that going on for me. As I share this, it's very clear. I wasn't thinking about when I get 30 days. I wasn't thinking when I get my year, when I get 6 months, when I can sponsor someone. That was nowhere near my realm of thinking. It was like, how do I get another day? How do I not destroy my life tonight? How do I get like about 5 hours sleep uninterrupted and not waking up in a frenzy with anxiety? Oh my God, because I was getting a lot of that. When am I going to be able to eat food and the food doesn't run through me? It's going to stay. A glass of water, food, anything I couldn't even hold. And I'm losing weight in sobriety. And people wondered for my health, what's going on with this guy? But little by slowly, I kept chopping wood and carrying water purely out of desperation and following folks around. Not because I was impressed by them. I had nowhere else to go. I wasn't chasing, we were talking about that, Pat and I were talking about that last night, chasing the speakers you like. That's a great thing to do. I was just hopping in a car or whoever was going to a meeting because I had nowhere else to go. I was just too afraid to be alone because I knew I'd hurt myself. And anyway, 1988, God gets me sober, and I land in Alcoholics Anonymous. And I had some bouts with AA, experiences with AA prior to that, always drunk. I never showed up at an AA meeting sober. I didn't even know what that's like. I never had a day count. I never had a 30 days, 60 days, 90 days. I admire some of the cats who get their 90-day chip and don't look back. God bless you. My wife is a one-hit wonder. I thank God, because I wouldn't have never met her. When you got a lot of one-hit wonders in here, and that's not being sarcastic, fabulous. I wasn't that guy. I had no day count. At 2 days after my 5th treatment center, white-knuckled it, didn't go to a meeting, and was blind drunk on Monday. That's my day count. That's what I do when I drive. I get drunk, and I become a danger to me and others. So the question I always have to take a look at, and I did at the beginning, was presented to me, is first, how free do I want to be? And I can have some spiritual beliefs. I get some spiritual beliefs while I'm in here. It starts to rub off on you. You start to hear John and Mary, the old timers, talking about a way of living, how they believe in God, and life is they're traveling light. Life seems to be easy, and they're doing certain things. Well, I like that. I have that spiritual belief that it's going to work for me, but to live it is another thing. I can look at someone who's in the sunlight of the Spirit, but I'm reluctant to do what they've done. I don't want to plow that field. I don't want to work all hours of the night. I don't want blisters on my hands. I don't want to have scraped knees to get God. I want to have all of God's blessings without seeking God, and that's backwards. I need to seek God first, and then the blessings will follow me.
Amen.
It's like having a car, and I'm waxing it and cleaning it up, but there's no engine in there. It looks really good. It doesn't go anywhere. So I come into AA, I want to get showered with God's grace and love and forgiveness and all this insight, but I don't want to really seek God because it means I'm going to get dirty. I'm going to get in the mud. My hands are going to get blistered, and I'm going to be tired, and I'm going to be feeding homeless, and I'm going to stay late after the meeting for the new guy who's back for the 50th time. No one wants to touch him. God says, you go touch him. You go work with him. I'm going to take the 12-step call at 1 o'clock in the morning when I'd rather not go. I'm going to do those kind of things. I'm going to pray until it hurts. I'm going to meditate until it hurts. And I'm going to do more step work. And I'm going to write inventory. I'm going to do that. I'm going to seek God at all costs. In adversity and good times, it's easy to seek God when things are nice. I have a whole boatload of money, have my own company, new car, new lady in my life maybe. Maybe a baby's on the way. Everybody likes me. I like you today. This is cool. I feel so spiritual. Like right after talking, I say, great talk, great talk, great talk, great talk. You feel like you're Moses on the way to the car. And the next morning, you wake up and you look at the bank account and say, I'm not Moses. How do I do in adversity? Am I going to seek God in adversity? And I seek God and I keep knocking, I keep knocking, I keep knocking. I think he's answering. He's not answering. I'm banging on the door. He's not answering. He's answering. I'm knocking on the wrong door. So this process for me, and I speak for myself, for newcomers, I'm not a model or an example of Alcoholics Anonymous. It's not my way. I'm just a drunk here telling you what it was like, what happened, what it's like now. And I hope to shout the good news that was brought to me. What I have found that the process of recovery is not about addition. I don't need anything. I don't need to add on. Like when you go to buy a car, they give you all the extras, extra this, extra that, or you like the extras. You go to a fancy hotel vacation, you get all the extras that go with it. We don't need any of that for recovery. In fact, I need just the opposite. I need everything to go away. The process of recovery is about subtraction, not addition. The more that's taken away and self dies, the freer I am. And all those proximity to God, I feel closer to God. I feel more one with God because there's nothing between me and God. My money isn't getting in the way of God. My new car isn't in the way of God. In fact, if it is, he just might take it. What he gives, he'll pull back too. So the process of recovery is subtraction, and specifically what he's talking about, all my ideas, attitudes, and emotions, which page 27 talk about, have to go. And that's incredibly uncomfortable at times to do stuff like that. I don't want to look at that. I don't want to go there. I love when folks, welcome by the way, but when folks walk in, it's like walking into a classroom late, you think you're going to get hollered at. I walked into a meeting late one time. I was sober like 25 years. I went, oh my God, and I snuck into the back like I was going to get hollered at. I need to lose everything. I'm talking about all these ideas, attitudes, and emotions. All the things that are driving me that I'm listening to all day. It's unbelievable how I don't have so much faith in God or belief in God, which is kind of the way it goes at the beginning. But boy, oh boy, am I a believer with strong faith in my own mind. I know when my mind says something, it's going to happen. And sometimes it looks like this. You're never going to do it. You're a loser. What's the sense? Why even try? I'm too old. I'm too heavy. I'm too thin. I'm too tall. Just go. And I believe that's the gospel truth. I can part the seas if those beliefs are so strong. And someone says, we can switch all of that. It's this guy called God. Just put a mustard seed of faith. Oh, that's crazy. I can't do that. And the evidence is in front of me because I walk into a meeting and maybe there's 100, 200, 300, or a few thousand people at a conference raising their hand saying, but for the grace of God. And I say, I don't know about that, but I believe in my mind. And the question I have to ask myself is, how good has the mind treated me since the day I can remember? Since I was like doorknob high. My mind has never done anything good for me. It's always given me delusions of grandeur, I'm better than you, or most often, I'm just not good enough. Who are you kidding? That guy? Who are you kidding? Where are we going with this? This is ridiculous. Why are you working out? You're 60 years old. The train has left the station. Why are you dating? You're 70. Are you kidding me? Who are you going to meet? Why try to change your careers at 50? What's wrong with you? All this stuff. And why even try doing the steps? Might as well get drunk. Who am I kidding? Don't go back. You just relapse. It's embarrassing, and it gets you, and it kills you. I have a lot of belief in that stuff. And I had a struggle trying to believe in God. So what I did was used you, a group of drunks for good orderly direction. I can hold on to that. I can hold on to what was tangible. You. I could hear you. I could see you. We can touch each other. That's good. I can see you the next day, and we can do it again. And you would talk to me. So that was tangible. And that was my God, a group of drunks for good orderly direction. And I do this third step, and I finish this fourth step, which is heavy lifting, and I get to step 5. It's unbelievable what it says in step 5, that the stuff I wrote about in the fourth step, all the resentments, all the fears, all the sex conduct stuff that I'm embarrassed about, how I took advantage of people, it doesn't say we're going to work on it or deal with it or just talk about it or nurture it and watch it. It says it's about to be cast out. Imagine being in a treatment center and sitting with your counselor and say, listen, counselor, here's all the stuff that's blocking me from God. I have good insurance. Cast it out. They medicate you. Go to your therapist, your shrink, your regular doctor. Say, listen, I've had a discovery. I have a lot of things in the way. They're called resentments, fear, my sex conduct. Can you cast them out? These are very brilliant people who work in the medical field. They don't know how to do that. But God could and would if he was sought. And it works through me and you. We sit with the drunk. We hear it. We navigate for them sometimes. We share our experience, strength, and hope with another drunk. God has entrusted people like us with his kids. It's a life and death errand. And here we are, no education perhaps, but spiritually awakened. Wisdom doesn't come from knowledge. Wisdom comes from God. I've been awakened. The soul is hearing. The soul is seeing. The soul is speaking. And I'm meeting that person's soul, broken as it is. And I'm navigating them little by slowly out the way I was navigated out from this awful spot to getting a little bit light and traveling lighter and reconciling a lot of the stuff that I thought were boogeymen under the bed, and they really weren't. Because if there's a name for it, it's been done. And over the years, I will tell you, I will report to you, and I consider this valid information because I'm sober long enough to say it, that too many times in too many places that we would tell newcomers, you're not ready for the 4th and 5th step. Make 90 meetings in 90 days first, and then they die. Meetings don't keep me sober. It's one part of a 3-sided triangle. For me as a real alcoholic, I love being at meetings. My wife and I do a lot of this. And we'll travel to a meeting just to go to a meeting. But that in itself is not keeping me sober. But God could and would if he was sought. I have a big book. I have service. I have meetings. You put those things together and suddenly I'm sober. And God puts his hand in my hand. So I got to take a look at me in step 4 as much as I could focus on. But step 5, something different happened. Because I was bouncing it off another drunk who was objective. And his only aim was to help me. He was called the sponsor. I didn't sit with a girlfriend or a wife or a parent or my children to do this. They couldn't be objectionable. They may have been on that 4th step. So I sat with the sponsor. And I remember the very first time I did a 5th step. Up until that point, my sponsor and my in my mind, like walked on water. He was like Moses. He's the sponsor. And my sponsor had 15 years at the time, and I had, like, say, a year or something. So 15 years, when you got a year, it's like, whoa, they're around forever. They're almost dead. I mean, they're around forever. And he always carried a big book, and he had the answers, and you ask him about this, let's go to page here, and he's one of those guys. Well, what about this? What was the big book saying? And he was that guy, and I was enamored by him. But when I had to go do my fifth step and show up at his apartment on a Saturday, I got tight. I go, who is this guy? That mind again. You're going to tell him everything? You know you have a sex inventory that is not nice. You're going to share that too? He's just another drunk. He's probably going to tell everyone, and here we go. I'm starting to backslide. But God gave me enough, just enough to drop to my knees, say, God, my prayer was, get me to Tony's house. Just get me there. And I rang the bell. He came down. I walked into his apartment, and it was set up nice. He gave it dignity. He didn't have to do that. We don't have to do that. It's not in the book. But he gave it some grace. He gave it some dignity. And we prayed before I began. And he had a notepad and a pen out, which is I do with my guys now, in case something was inspired in him to take a note to talk to me about. And it's exactly what happened, because you start off on page 1, you get to page 20, and he looks at his notes. He says, this was going on with you when you were 10, and now you're 40, and it's still going on. There was a thread running through it. And you know what the thread in all my troubles were? Me. For years I would, if she didn't, if he didn't, if they didn't, if only, and if only. And the thing was, I was in every one of those relationships. It was me. My picker was broken. I kept picking the wrong people, if you will. Relationships, male friends, jobs. I couldn't see straight. It was, what can I get out of it? How am I going to look good here? And when you disappointed me, I hated you. Even people who did bad things to me, I would hold on to that, what they did to me, as my cross, and this is why I am the way I am. You don't know what I went through. And then I come into AA, there's a whole room full of people who went through exactly what I went through and worse, and are traveling light. How do you do that? And so we began, and he had me stick to the script. He assumed that what was on paper God gave me, and I started to read resentment, cause, effects, where I'm at fault. And little by little, I started to move through that. And every once in a while, we would stop and have a conversation. It was mechanical, but it wasn't. It was the most difficult, deepest, and eventually rewarding conversation I've ever had in my entire life. And that includes talking to my own mom and dad. That includes talking to my grandfather, who talked to me a lot when I was a little guy about how to grow up and be a man. This was by far the deepest conversation I've ever had. And I say eventually be rewarding because I got away from me. I was able to step outside of myself. In a sense, I was finally looking in at the mess rather than looking out from the mess. That's blurred vision, which leads to poor actions. And I got to see how greedy I was. And greed doesn't have to be where I'm holding on and not sharing. That's usually it. But just greedy in a lot of things. I wouldn't let people in to know me who wanted to know me. I wouldn't be a good friend because I was afraid of getting hurt. I just held on to a lot of stuff. And I'm embarrassed to tell you, even when I was reading it, how much hate and venom I walked with. It's interesting, sometimes we do step 4 and 5, and a lot of folks don't like this step. It requires work. It requires taking a look at oneself, and we can get real comfortable, some of us in AA, right? And why do I want to upset that? Why do I want to take the whole tree down when I can just trim off a couple of dead leaves? I mean, I'm doing pretty good right now. Why do I need to do this? I feel comfortable, and I'm seeking comfort rather than God's joy. And the things I'm doing to make myself comfortable might eventually boomerang and make me really uncomfortable. It's me who's keeping me sober. It just seems to be when the channel is clear, things come to us. because the freedom I'm seeking is not for me, but from me. And in order for me, one of the byproducts of completing 4 through 9 is that in order for me to hear clearly what's outside of me and to see clearly what's outside of me, I need to first to be in touch with the power that's inside of me. And prior to a 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, and 9, I thought I was listening. I thought I was seeing, but in reality, I wasn't, because I was still full of me. And I was operating out of old belief systems, old ideas, old emotions, old pains, old hurts, the wounded piece of me. That's how I was operating. I was playing a good game in AA, like I'm doing okay. You know, I got 90 days. I'm just great. I'm inspired all the time. That's nice, but I wasn't. I'm walking around on thin ice. I know it's going to cave in any minute. And suddenly you start to move 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. By the time we get to 9, we enter the world of the spirit. That person on step 4 is no longer around. Or he's around or she's around, but they're no longer present. And I never want to be that person on step 4 again. My first 4th step, that guy's got to stay away. In fact, my last 4th step, that guy's got to stay away. He's not a good guy. And my illness is not going anywhere because I'm sober. I don't have alcoholism. I have alcoholism. And something that came to me, I'll just share this with you. This is after inventory and some meditation. God sometimes wakes me up early. Last week he got me up, oh Lord have mercy. It was like 3:30 in the morning. This is not the first time it's happening. There's no doom and gloom. It's just I wake up and I'm ready to roll. My wife thinks I'm crazy. I'm ready to roll. I'm energetic. Let's go. It's 3:30. Okay. And I go pray and meditate, and I make coffee, and sometimes God will lay something on our heart. There's somebody, his name is Rumi, he says, the morning breeze has secrets to tell you. Don't go back to sleep. You sleep later. And this is what came to me, and it's just very apropos for what we're talking about. Things where you wake up to when the channel is clear. I can hear, admire, but don't envy, support, not take apart, follow, don't imitate, lead, don't manipulate, praise, don't flatter. When it comes to greed or selfishness, I have no respect for others on taking or getting what I want, and I refuse to share what I have. That's living in me. That's living in self. That's living in fear. That's living in my little world. I'm me-centered rather than God-centered. That has to go. That guy had to go. I take the bit in my teeth and off I go. And some of the 5th step, when I would share it, it's uncomfortable. I sat in the 5th step not too long ago. I'm sober a number of years now, thank you God. I'm uncomfortable. And there was nothing really to be uncomfortable about. You know what was uncomfortable? My ego showed up a little bit. I got to look flawless here, and I'm not. This guy's going to think bad things about me. He didn't. And you get to touch the ego quickly. I'll share a quick story with you. Age 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and 7, I'm kind of pooping along, doing okay. My golden years. And who knows about ego? Who knows about self-centeredness? Who knows about plotting to lie? I'm going to lie about this together. Especially back then. Kids are a lot more advanced today. So in the summertime in Brooklyn, when school was out, we used to go on bike rides. You can't do that nowadays for some reason. It's a strange planet we live on. But back in Brooklyn, that's what we used to do. And I had my best friend. His name was Joseph. He lived across the street. He come into my driveway. We didn't have cell phones. How we called each other was, "You're coming out." And he'd roll into my driveway on this bicycle, and he had these baseball cards with clothespins attached to the spokes, and he'd roll in, and he'd say, "Hey, Pete." He has pajamas on, barefoot, his hair like he just woke up. He's only 7. And I'd say, I'll be right, open up the window, I'll be right down. And I'd go down on the same thing, hop on the bike, the big banana seats with the monkey bars we had, and we rolled through the neighborhood. In the summertime, it was fabulous, yeah? And we did this every morning. My mom got wise, and she'd leave a quarter out, would stop at Max's candy store, maybe get some candy, head back. Mom would make some breakfast and go play in the pool, the days of innocence. One morning, we're in Max's candy store, and my friend Joey's outside waiting for me. And I'm making my way out of the candy store. I probably had some bubble gum or something. And some guy walks into the candy store. And he was like an old guy to me at 7. He was probably like in his 30s, probably going to work. It was early in the morning. And he saw 2 kids barefoot in their pajamas rolling through the neighborhood having some fun. And he said, I don't remember the exact words, I know how he felt, something like, hey, get a load of these 2 kids in their pajamas. Probably, I know I would get a kick out of that. I wish I'd have to go to work, I'd go on a bike and play too. And he made kind of a funny comment, and the people in the place laughed, and it was just funny, these 2 little boys. Have you ever been so humiliated that you get caught flat-footed, you can't move, and you feel the blood rushing to your head, your heart bounce out of your chest? Oh my God, I'm so embarrassed. That's what happened to me at 7. Because what I heard was, look at these 2 idiots in their pajamas, they should be ashamed of themselves. That's what my filter sounds like. Joey was completely unbothered by it. The next morning when Joey rolled in my driveway, I lied. I plotted to lie. And I says, I don't feel good. The next day, my mom doesn't want us going. And we never did that again, ever. I touched ego. The ego woke up. It's not a good friend. It's a bad place to be. And it was kind of like this decision that no one was ever going to catch me flat-footed again. I'm never going to get humiliated again. My hair's going to be combed. I'm going to have nice clothes on. I'm not going to ride a bike in sandals or shorts or anything because that guy might show up again. I'm 16, I'm 17, I'm 20, I'm 30. Not going to happen. It took a lot of work in discovering that in a 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 kind of deal to say that was nothing. But my mind created this gorilla, this monster that's still only into sobriety. The freedom I seek is when I get dressed because I like to get dressed, whether it's dressed or casual. I brush my hair because I like to. I get a manicure because I like to. Not because I'm afraid of being caught flat-footed anymore, but for a long time it was for that reason. No one's going to make a fool of me. From 7 years old, I'm doing a 4th step at 28, 29, doing a 5th step same age. It was still with me. That's how I'm navigating through life. That's not freedom. That's traveling really heavy. And I'm in pretend world. I got it together, but I really don't. I'm not okay in my own skin. I'm not okay with me. If I'm not okay with me, it's because I'm not okay with the boss, which means I'm never going to be okay with you. So there's a lot more to just the mechanics of 4 and 5 when we do those steps. If anyone's new, do not be afraid to do it. In fact, do it with the sponsor, under the guidance of a sponsor. Because what happens, a lot of the torment or the pain I can suffer in recovery, a lot of it has to do with past misdeeds that I've never reconciled yet. A lot of skeletons in the closet that still own me. A lot of remorse and regret that I still walk with. And a ton of fear, because fear is the catalyst behind everything. I could be 30 years old, a big muscle-bound guy, and as scared as a little boy who can't find mommy in the shopping mall. That's how I'm navigating. I don't want to be that anymore. How free do we want to be? So here's what step 5 says. And then I'll get out of here, I promise. It says, we have made a personal inventory. What shall we do about it? We've been trying to get a new attitude, step 2, and a new relationship, step 3, with our Creator, and to discover the obstacles in our path. There's obstacles in the path. The road's under construction. It's messy. It's got to get smoothed over here. We have admitted certain defect, ascertained in a rough way what the trouble is, and put our finger on the weak items on personal inventory. Now, it's really interesting that it says, to ourselves, God, and another human being. We got to share this stuff. When I'm writing it, I'm looking at it and sharing it with me, that's easy. God, yeah, I know he's listening somewhere up there. I don't see him. But to go sit with you, and you're going to be eyeballing me, and we're knee to knee, and I got to unload this. I'm not that. That's heavy lifting. You know why? Because the ego's about to get crushed. And that's a necessary thing to happen to a guy like me, that the air gets taken out of the bag of ego. It's got to, even if it's temporary. So sneaky, the ego, I don't even know what's working. You can see it in me, I don't even know what's working. He goes on to say this. Now these are about to be cast out. I'm not going to work on them and deal with them. They'll be thrown out like bad garbage. This requires action on my part, which when completed will mean I've committed to God, to myself, and to you, a sponsor, the exact nature of my defects. Last thing I'll read is this. If we skip this vital step, I may not overcome drinking. The old timers would say, I do a fifth, I'm going to drink one. How free do I want to be? It's a clear-cut warning, probably the biggest warning in the book. If I skip this vital, life-giving when I have it and life-threatening when I don't, like a vital organ. I'm wearing a heart monitor so the doctor can watch this over the last 2 weeks, because it's a vital organ to make sure everything's firing right. Because if that goes south, I go south. It's a vital organ. Everything's cool when it's working. When it's not, I got a problem. Skip this vital step. In short, we do a fifth or we drink one. I didn't know any of this. I don't want to drink. What do I do? Fifth step, okay, I'm scared to death, but I'm going to go do it. Desperation will move you. Yeah. It'll move you. And anyway, I sit with the fifth step, and I didn't do one session. My sponsor and I sat twice. It was a lot. It was my whole life, basically. Not a life story, but a lot of stuff on there. They've since gotten shorter. But the first one was long. It required me to go out and make about 200 direct amends in step 9, besides the indirect ones. It was a messy list. And I was aware of none of it until I sat down and did a fourth step. I was, where is all this coming from? How much more can I write? I'm very grateful for every one of my sponsors who heard a fifth step, because I swear to you, and if you knew, you probably feel this, you're going to be judged. Not one of those men made me feel judged by them. My first sponsor said, if it's got a name, it's already been done. And so it gave me a little bit of freedom. And then you would unload something, and you would look at them, what are they going to do? And they look bored. That shop would carry water, and little by slowly get done with it. And God willing, next week we'll talk about what we're supposed to do when we're done with step 5. That's all I got. Peace.